All right. Welcome to Waste Some Time with Jason Green. I'm Jason Green. And again, if you're enjoying these interviews, there's tons of them on my channel right now you can go take a look at. And I've got about 20 more to upload. So you want to take a look, but please make sure you subscribe so that you're alerted when these things happen, and also helps us to keep them going. Because when I ask my friends to do these interviews, I can't tell them I've got like 81 subscribers. I got to have big, impressive numbers. But we're going to have a really cool interview today. And now I don't claim to be an angel expert, but I've got somebody here who is, and he's going to help us fill in the blanks of this sort of mythical career of the band Angel. And so remember, this is an unfiltered, unedited interview. So whatever happens, happens. And it's going to happen right after this. All right. Who better to talk about Angel with than the lead singer of Angel himself, Frank Dimino. How are you, Frank?
How are you? Nice to be here.
Yes. I'm glad you took time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you.
You found a little opening to get me in.
I found a little opening, and I thought I'd squeeze you right in that opening.
You know, Frank, I was saying before we started this, I'm really happy to see you've got a sophisticated setup over there, because, you know, some people are on like dial-up and old, you know, cell phones with an antenna. So I feel like we're going to get a good interview today.
I had one of those yesterday. I just bought the laptop and set it up.
Yeah, I'll see. Now you're ready. You're yeah.
This is where I teach. This is my vocal room. I teach here. I do recording in here for all my demo stuff. This is how I've been working with Punky and Danny on the new Angel album. So
yeah, we're gonna get to that. But I know that you've been teaching singing for quite some time. You know, vocals, and so yes, you have a setup there, which is great.
Yeah. I was when I first got here, I was teaching at a music school, and it worked out for a while, and then I just ended up having to move things around, and I had a place different areas, and then I finally just kept a core of students that I knew, and I was comfortable with having them come to my home. So I set up this little room, and this is where I do all the teaching in here.
Yeah, which is great to have. Okay, yeah. Frank, so let's go way back now. I'm not trying to age you, but we're going to go back a little bit. Now, you grew up in Boston, right?
Yes, grew up in Boston, okay. Yeah.
And so tell me, I know your parents made you take singing lessons. Is that right?
Yes, they did. They did make me take singing lessons, which was at the time I thought was a huge pain in the ass, and I thought, I don't really want to take singing lessons, but for some reason, when I started taking them, it didn't bother me that much, and I felt comfortable doing them. So I would, do my singing lessons. I would go to this teacher. He'd give me these lessons to do, and then I'd go out and play baseball or football. I was, on Little League and stuff like that, which I would have much rather have been concentrating on. But for some reason, it was fun. It was okay to do. So I practiced every day.
Were your family musicians? What made them decide singing was good for you?
My mother was a piano player. She played piano. So, when I was real young, she used to play piano around the house. I mean, when we'd have family get-togethers and stuff like that. So that's how I, kind of gravitated to singing and music. The Beatles weren't out yet, so I had nothing to really relate to. But it was part of my family structure. So that's I guess a part of why I continued doing the voice lessons.
Yeah, and you play piano as well.
Yeah, but I play piano mostly by ear. I mean, I can read music, but I never was formally taught how to play piano. So I did when I went to Berkeley. It was my first instrument, because it was easier for me to transpose music. I used to have to, at Berkeley they wanted us to do music sheets and arrangements and stuff. So I used to have to transpose for B-flat clarinet and French horn and all that stuff. So it's just a lot easier to see it on a piano than it is anything else.
Gotcha, gotcha. Frank, so you mentioned the Beatles, and one of the things I was going to ask you about, as a kid, and we've talked about this before, you saw some of the most amazing concerts. So I want you to tell me like the top 3 concerts that you saw growing up in Boston.
The top 3 was obviously the first time I saw the Beatles at Boston Garden, and the second one was the second time I saw the Beatles at Suffolk Downs. The third is, I mean, there's a handful of stuff in there. There's like early Pink Floyd that I saw at the Music Hall, and the most interesting thing is when the Boston Tea Party was open back in those days, and I saw Led Zeppelin on their very first tour. It was one of their early shows in the U.S., and I saw the first version of the Jeff Beck Group with Rod Stewart and Ronnie Wood on bass.
Wow!
And every time Rod Stewart would sing, he'd come to the front and sing, and then he'd go behind the drums and sit back there while the rest of the band was playing, while Jeff Beck was doing a solo or something. It was very interesting back then. It was, a lot of great early bands came through Boston at that time. That was the early 70s and 69, 70 in those time periods. I as a kid in high school, I do remember at one point playing. We opened for Spencer Davis Group. That was when I was in high school, I believe. So it had to be 68, 69. We did a show, a television show in New York. It was a Duke Ellington show, and King Curtis was on the show. It was just a great. When I look back on it, it was just a great amount of stuff going on that, back then you didn't realize. You just kind of like was soaking it all in. You don't realize it until after you look back on it. Right. How much it became part of your life. So
there's no way you could pick 3. That list. I mean, that is what rock and roll became. Those are the greatest rock and roll bands of all time. I mean, you pretty much saw everybody who, and in their heyday for the most part.
At an early stage, like the Jeff Beck Group was at a very early stage, and Zeppelin as well. I mean, and that first show that I saw with Zeppelin, it's still in my head. It's still the best. I've seen Zeppelin many times, but that first show, when I think about it, because you didn't know all the songs because the album hadn't come out yet. But Robert Plant was so huge at that point when listening to him. I mean, I just, I can remember how that felt, watching and listening to him back then. It really was great.
Yeah, I mean, if you could have a time machine, this is what people would want to go back and see. I mean, you definitely captured something that, in your mind, at least, that's there. So, yeah, pretty amazing. And so, obviously, this has got to become a big influence on you. If taking singing lessons didn't make you want to be a rock star, I think seeing these bands probably did.
Yeah. By the time I took singing lessons at a very early age, and I did a lot of the musical tunes, and I did opera as well. When I was young, I did do an opera. That I was chosen to do an opera. I forget which one it was. With Madame Butterfly, one of those. It was where there's 3 angels. Obviously, how strange! 3 angels, like young angels in a cloud. And I remember being on this big, tall thing, and they, it kind of like the arm kind of came down, and we appeared there and just sang. And I also did a radio show, a newspaper boys radio show every Sunday. And it didn't, I was just. Back then, it was like going through the motions because it was something I felt was easy for me to do, and it didn't really dawn on me until the Beatles came out, where I went, oh yeah, I can apply this to that. That's when it became, oh yeah, that's even more exciting.
Yeah, so. No, I can imagine doing that. You have that skill, and now you could use it for something cool.
Something really cool. Yeah.
Meeting girls and
exactly. Yeah, the radio show wasn't that great. There was a lot of younger kids there with their mothers and trying to push them. It was like the old, I guess, with the early stages of American Idol. They were pushing their kids out there. You know, here's the sheet music, and here I am by myself with the sheet music from my vocal teacher going, you know, here's mine. And because I just was there all the time, they got used to me being there, so they would choose me to sing a song all the time on that broadcast. So it was, you know, it was fun, but it wasn't really exciting until, like I said, the Beatles came out. And then it was like, oh wow,
yeah, yeah, life change.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move ahead a little bit. I know you moved to Washington, D.C. That's where Angel is formed.
Yeah.
Punky was out there. Punky Meadows was out there doing other things. Tell me how you guys connect and what brings you to Washington.
Yeah, what happened was I was in a band, a local band, and we were playing the Berkeley complex. It's like an auditorium, and Mickey came down. Mickey came down to see me because he'd heard about me, and he was looking for a singer with this thing that he was trying to put together in Boston. So after we had done the show and everything, Mickey came out to where we talked for a while, and he asked me to come down to a rehearsal. It was him and Barry and this guitar player from the Boston area, and I went down there to see them, and I couldn't take my eyes off of Barry because of his playing. So all I knew is that I wanted to play with that guy. Mm-hmm. And Mickey said, well, this thing is kind of falling apart now, so I'm not going to ask you to join it, but I'm doing something when I'm going back to DC. Barry and I are going back to DC. And when we have something firm together, I'd like to have you come out there. So I said, give me a call. I'm still finishing up my school. I'm still at Berkeley, but give me a call when you put it together, and I'd love to come out there and listen to it. And that's what he did. I went out there. Yeah.
And for those who might not know, that is the original rhythm section of Angel, Barry on drums and Mickey on bass. And so okay, so they go back to Washington, and they give you the call, right? That they got something better. And so tell me what happens next.
So I go to Washington, and they had this auditorium, this little kind of like theater where they were rehearsing it. So it was Mickey, Barry, and this guitar player, David Namerty. And it was just so much better than what I was dealing with back in Boston. And when I was going to school at Berkeley, we did form, you know, some bands out there, you know, the students and stuff. But there was just mostly your top 40 stuff to get money to pay for books and other stuff that we had to do at Berkeley. So it was fun stuff. We would take the top 40 stuff, just go down the list and just learn it and go out and play some of the clubs. But when I got to DC, this was kind of really what I wanted to do. And they were doing the stuff that I love doing, like some Jeff Beck stuff, Led Zeppelin stuff, and, you know, stuff that I really could get my teeth into. So yeah, I said, well, you know, give me a couple of weeks to tidy up things, and I'll come back out. And that's what I did. I went back out, and we found a place. We stayed together. Mickey and I were living together for a while, and Barry lived close to us, and we used to just rehearse, and then we used to go to the different clubs, and that's when we first saw Punky playing with the Cherry People. And it became like a little kind of a little area for a lot of different really great musicians in that whole Georgetown area, where there were all different clubs and stuff. And we were all kind of intermingled with each other, and always went to see each other play. Niels Lofgren used to play down there. He used to play with his brother. He had a band called Smile. And they used to do a thing where they played each other's guitar. They would pick each other's guitar. They would play the left hand and play the string to his brother's right hand. It was great. It was great watching. It was a lot of fun to watch. Danny Gatton was there. You know, there was so much talent out there back then. Bobby Manriquez was a great player. There was just a lot of talent out there at that time.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys start putting together what would be the early beginning of Angel. And Now, at this point, obviously, you don't have the look and things figured out. So what are the
No,
early Angel shows like?
at that time, that band was called Max, and what happened with that is uh, Mickey ended up leaving, and I forget who I think he ended up playing. You see, I knew Ralph Morman from back in Boston. All these things are intermingled. You know, Ralph was a singer with Daddy Warbucks, the band from Boston. Him and Jimmy were a guitar player. They had that band together, and somehow Mickey and Punky got involved with that. And when Punky left Cherry People, Barry joined the Cherry People for a while with Ricky Bennick, and I stayed with David Namberty, the guitar player. But we were all still watching each other, playing with each other, you know, jamming and stuff. And at one point, Barry and I, Stephen Riley was with me. I brought Stephen Riley out with me to play with David Namberty, and we were going to put
Steve Riley, who goes on to LA Guns, right?
LA Guns, yeah. And so it all intermingles. So it gets crazy. But what ended up happening is Mickey ended up calling me and said, "I'm trying to put something together with Punky. And why don't you come down and listen to it?" So I went down and listened to it, and he was with Greg, and TC Tolliver was on drums and stuff, and I listened to it, and I said, just give me some time to absorb it and stuff. And I went back and I was talking to David about maybe doing this and maybe going and joining the thing, when all of a sudden a week goes by and I get a call from Barry, and Barry said, "Hey, listen, why don't you come down again, because TC is not playing with Mickey and Punky anymore. I'm going to start playing with them." So I went down there, and when I listened to Punky, Greg, Mickey, and Barry play, the first 30 seconds of them playing was easy for me to see this is what I'm going to do. It was it just drew me in like it did when we first did the Max thing, but this was even a little bit more. When something just kind of clicks, and I started singing with them, that it just clicked from the very beginning. So I ended up doing that. I joined the band, and we rehearsed upstairs at Bogey's. Obviously, we knew all the club owners there in DC, and the club owner from Bogey's said, "Listen, I want you guys to start here, open here at my club, and I'm going to give you the room upstairs to rehearse. When you guys are ready, you let me know. We'll come down, we'll bring you down, and we'll feature you." So that's what we did. We rehearsed all these songs. Tower was the first song we wrote.
Wow.
And it was the first song we really kind of like really finished and played together, because we didn't really, I think we did two songs that were cover songs. We did Father to Son by Queen, and Simple Sister by Procol Harum. And the rest was all stuff that we wrote. So
was Tower always this epic song? Because this is a big song. Was that something that right from the beginning was meant to be that way?
Yeah, crazy. Wow. It's pretty crazy. And oddly enough, since the original inception of Angel, I think that was one of the only, if I can remember correctly, I think it's the only song we ever opened every show with, and we've never opened another show, any show with any other tunes other than the Tower. Yeah,
well, and it was fitting. It's hard to top. That's a song you open with for sure. A big song,
right?
So, okay, so at some point, I'm moving ahead, but at some point, Gene Simmons comes into a club and sees you play. Is that right?
Yeah, Gordon Fletcher was a writer for Rolling Stone, Circus, and Cream magazine, and he used to come down every time we play, and would sit and talk, and he'd talk to us and say, you guys gotta find a way to bring people down to see you guys. I want to try to bring some bands that I have to review and stuff. I want to bring them down from Largo. Back then it was Largo Arena. And we said, yeah, bring them down, anytime. I mean, whenever we're playing. So we did get a huge following there at Bogey's. It used to be crowded, packed every night, and we had different managers coming down. Word got out really quick, and he would bring different people down. And one night he brought the guys from Kiss down, and they stayed. They watched the show. We came upstairs so that we used our rehearsal room from upstairs for our dressing room and stuff. And Gene talked to us and wanted us to. First, he asked us to join a coin, and we had just signed a week earlier with. We were going back and forth between Lieber and Krebs and David Joseph, who we originally signed with management, and we had just signed with David the week before. So we had told him, we said we just signed a management deal. So from that point on, it was a close relationship. We used to talk with them. We used to go to their shows. They invited us to their shows. And
now, Frank, at this point, no one knew what they even looked like without the makeup on, right? I mean, when you were talking to these guys, it was still a secret.
Yes, but they never talked to us in makeup.
No, I'm saying I didn't think they were taking business meetings.
Yes, but it's interesting because when they came down to Bogies, no one really knew who they were. Everyone knew. Look, when Kiss walked into a room, there was a presence there, so they knew they were a band. But everyone was trying to figure out who are those guys because they didn't know what Kiss looked like. Mm-hmm. So they knew they were a band, but they didn't know what band or who they were. It's funny because Carmine used to tell me this story that Carmine and Paul came to an Angel show in LA at Long Beach Arena, and he said, and people were coming up to him and saying, Carmine, it's so good to see you here, and not saying anything to Paul because they didn't know who he was. They had no idea it was Paul Stanley. Had they known, it would have been different. But like you said, back then, no one really knew who they were yet. It looks.
Yeah, they were anonymous, though. Yeah, as far as their looks go,
it's amazing that they kept it up for so long. That no one really knew what they looked like.
Well, nowadays, with internet or whatever, it would be over.
It's impossible. Yeah, right.
Yeah, which is why it may have been so much cooler back then because you were able to keep this thing going. So Gene recommends you to Casablanca Records. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, what it was Neil wanted to see us play. What happened was David Joseph was trying to get us a record deal. We had Ahmed Erdogan come down. We had John. I can't think of his name from Capitol Records. So we had a lot of people come down listening to the band and stuff. So we had things going, but David liked Neil and thought Neil had really a better vision in the industry, and we sat and talked with Neil for a while, and we all loved Neil. So Neil wanted to see the band, and it never quite worked out where he came down for rehearsal. He said, "Well, why don't I put you on a show?" Kiss are playing, I think it was Long Beach Arena or the Forum, one of those shows, and he said there's 3 acts, but we'll put you on in the beginning. Maybe for a half hour or so, just to open the show. And we said, yeah, sure, that's fine. And we all agreed to it. He said, just I'll let you know. And I forget who said it, either David or one of the guys in the band said, well, maybe you should ask, Gene first. He said, well, sure. I mean, listen, it'll be okay with Gene. I'll talk to Gene and we'll just, we'll work it out and we'll let you know. I said, okay. Within 24 hours, a 48-hour period, whatever it was, he called David Joseph and said, David, he said, I'll sign the band sight unseen because Kiss don't want Angel to open. They don't want you on the bill. Now, whatever that means, it is what it is. I don't take it as Kiss being afraid to have Angel do 30 minutes, 3 bands before they come on. And so I think it was just, it was a way for Gene to say, yeah, sign the guys. They don't have to play on our show for you to sign them. They're good enough. Just, sign them and trust me, I've seen them before. You're not going to regret it. So
yeah, that's a good endorsement. Yeah. Do you think Gene tried to get a kickback at any point?
I don't know.
He might still
You'd have to ask Neil for that, but Neil's gone now. It's too late.
Yeah. After this interview, he might say, you know what? I never did get that 10% referral fee for Angel. But so anyway, so this is where it really starts to get interesting. You guys come up with the concept for what the look will be. And I know I've heard different versions that, you know, Kiss dressed in black, and you guys thought that you would do the opposite. But I've heard you say that's not exactly what it was about.
Yeah, no, I never, you know, look, when we talked about it, it might have been in someone else's mind, but I never, when we were putting the concept together, I never looked at it as, oh, Kiss is in black. Let's try dressing in white. It was never good, bad, good, evil. That never. I mean, I never looked at Kiss as evil or bad. You know, that never really crossed my mind. What we were doing was trying to put something together for us. You know, so we had kind of a look that we had put together when we were working in Bogies. And we just decided to do something like that. The white concept came as we thought about, well, how are we going to make these costumes, and what are they going to look like, and what kind of materials are we going to use? And we had this guy, Jeremy Railton, who worked on H&R Pufnstuf back then.
Wow.
And he kind of like geared us and kind of like moved us into this kind of like different kind of outlook on the whole thing. And that's when we decided to make it one color instead of having different guys having, you know, different outfits and stuff like that. And white was the idea that someone came up with, and we all thought, yeah, I mean, white is as good as any other color. And, you know,
and you weren't just different from Kiss. You were different from every band at the time.
Yeah.
You know, this was
I think that was part of it too. I think like at that time, a lot of Kiss were costume wise, they were all in black, but there was a lot of bands that were starting to wear a lot of black. And I think that may have played into the fact that between black and jeans and all that stuff, we decided to go with something that was going to be really clean looking and something that was different and make us stand out. So I think the white concept was something that we thought that'll make us really jump out a lot more than anything else.
But as you said, it wasn't easy to keep it clean.
Oh my God. Yeah, they hadn't come out with spandex yet. We had velvet, we had satin, and believe me, that satin turns to yellow real quick. And any kind of leather stuff to it got really stiff, and it was just a nightmare to keep that white stuff clean. And it didn't take until after maybe halfway or maybe the whole first tour that someone came up to us and said, listen, I found this material, this woman that was making our costumes. I have this material that might work for you guys better than what you guys are using, because I know this is very hard. You know, we had 2 or 3 different outfits so that we could clean one and wear the other, clean the next one, and rotate, you know. So she said, this might work better. And of course we tried it, and the costumes were a little bit better to deal with when they were finally, it came out that it was spandex, which didn't mean anything to us back then, but that's what it was.
This looks like it's spandex we're looking at, right?
This is the first uniform.
Okay, so this is before.
First costumes. Yeah, I think Punky's in the velvet. I'm in the Saturn. Barry's in velvet. This guy, Greg is in satin. And yeah, it was just a whole mess of stuff. You know, I hadn't had my boots yet either. Di Fabrizio made my knee-high boots, and they weren't done at the time of this photo session.
Yes, this is pretty early on.
Yeah.
Now, Frank, talk a little bit about going to make that first record. Where did you record the self-titled record?
The first record was at Wally Heider. That was with Peter Granite was the engineer, and Big Jim Sullivan and Derek Lawrence were the producers. It was great working with those guys. I loved working with those guys. You know, we used to take breaks next door to this little Italian restaurant called Martoni's. That's where I first met Harry Nielsen. Used to come there all the time, and
wow.
And we used to sit and play Pong all the time at break. Let's play Pong and then we played Pong for beers.
You were ahead of your time.
Yeah, yeah, it was a break time. So I mean, a lot of times when I wasn't doing vocals, I'd play pong and drink beers with Harry all the time, and working with Jim was a great experience. He did so many sessions back in the '60s. All that stuff with it was either Big Jim and Little Jim was Jimmy Page. Both of those guys did all those sessions, those Kinks, some Rolling Stones sections, all those '60s sessions that you hear, the James Bond, early James Bond stuff was Big Jim Sullivan. So yeah, he was just great to work with.
Yeah, and a pretty legendary studio as well.
Yeah, Wally Heider back then was the place to record. There's all that Crosby, Stills and Nash stuff was done there, and there's so many records were done there back then.
Yeah, legendary stuff. So okay, so now it's you're going out on the road. Now here's what I find fascinating about Angel, and this is where you guys become this mythical band. Everyone has a story about seeing Angel and how big it is, and this happens and that happens, and the logo does this, and they come out in these boxes, and there's things that are flying, but there's no real video of Angel, which makes it even crazier. You can find very little video. So, Frank, for the people who've heard the rumors, or the people who don't know about it, you tell me, what was it like to be at an Angel concert?
It was extraordinary, actually, because I mean, it was extraordinary to do the shows. We went by some bits of the show were on a time watch, stopwatch and stuff. The crew, we worked the show out, a month before we would do a tour, just to get all the timing for everything right. There was usually no music, actually, of us playing while stuff went on. Mm-hmm. There was background music. I took a lot of the stuff from Cahill Gibran for the opening writing of the Angel voice, the legendary the George logo, which is the face with the A and the wings, which he speaks to the audience. He rises up, and the face looks. His eyes turn like back and forth, and he starts talking to the audience. And as he's talking to the audience, there's 20 cubes that are all over the stage, and as he's talking, the crew comes out all dressed in black jumpsuits, and they build a tower with each cube. And once one tower is built, they plug it in. There's a big Angel logo on the top of the last cube. They plug it in, and chaser lights go all around. They're lit up all around, and the logo says, "And you shall be known as," I think the first one was either Barry or Greg, I can't remember, but "you should be known as Greg Giuffria." All of a sudden the lights go on inside that tower, and Greg is standing there. He pushes open the doors, and he walks out, waves to the crowd, and then they build the next tower. So you get 5 chances to figure out, how in the fuck are these guys doing this? Are they going through the floor, through the back? So that you look at the second one, and the second one, "You shall be known as Barry Brandt." Open. The lights go on inside. He's there, opens the door, walks out, and after they push the tower away, they build the next one, and that goes on, and then the voice goes, "And you shall be known as Angel." We come out, we play the tower, and of course the logo goes back down. We do the show, and then there's different points of the show where the logo rises and says different things to the audience. Obviously, I smell the aroma of the gods. Rock and roll. Let me hear you say rock and roll. And he goes back and forth with the audience, and then we come back on and start playing again. And at the end of the show, after the last encore, we come out, and they wheel out this big semi stage thing that you can see through, and the album cover comes down, whichever one it was, the current one, which was the first, the second. Then we went all the way up to the third one, I think, "On Earth as It Is in Heaven," would come down, and then we would wave to the crowd, go into the album cover. The album cover would rise, explode, and open, and we were gone. It's a lot. It's a lot to deal with.
Yeah, well, I was going to say also, so the character that you're talking about that was talking, this was also designed by the guy from Sid and Marty Krofft, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So
it was based on originally it was based on the same thing as the haunted house at Disneyland.
Oh,
but,
wow.
Yeah, but we couldn't get it because it was going to be moved all the time. He said, "Look, if it was in one place, we could get a really a great a 3D image of it, but we have to do it a little bit differently than that." So we had like an opaque face, which ran this high intense film in the back of it that we ran behind the face that it opened. Eyes opened, and we had a model do it. He had to have his face painted gold.
Mm-hmm.
And the model back then was Warren Entner, who was in the Grassroots and who was the original manager for Quiet Riot, who back then was on the same management. Warren and David did a lot of stuff together, and Quiet Riot was on that. That was back when Randy was playing with them, so they were a part of that whole thing too. They opened a few shows for us in LA with Randy.
Wow, that's wild. Yeah, it's like you said, it's funny how all these people sort of cross into each other. But
yeah,
I'm laughing at the this character and stuff. You know, later these Sid and Marty Krofft would have Land of the Lost, and
yeah.
they're probably using ideas that came out of Angel.
Yeah, yeah. We in fact in a lot of the stuff too. The opening illusion and the end illusion was built by a guy named Johnny Gahn, who's not with us anymore, but he built all the stuff for Doug Henning and all those same illusions back then. That when he built the stuff for us, we had to take an oath, an actual oath to promise that we wouldn't reveal how it was done, and through that oath we became a guest of the Magic Castle, so we were always able to go to the Magic Castle as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so there were a few of those fringe benefits were always fun to take advantage of.
You guys were sworn in as honorary magicians. I mean,
yeah.
Frank, I feel like it's too early to ask this question. It's the one question was gonna ask no matter what, but maybe it's time. So why wasn't Angel the biggest band in the world?
That's one question I can't answer for you. I can answer all the other ones. I don't know. And obviously, if we knew, we would have figured it out and remedied it. But we were just going. What we were doing was just doing what any other band does. We were writing, recording, and playing. Always when we were in the studio, we were always working with different producers and stuff, always trying to get different sounds. It was always a fun and interesting adventure in the studio. We were lucky to have producers and engineers that wouldn't shoot us down when we came up with ideas. There's obviously some ideas were kind of crazy that we didn't do, but they were always willing to listen and willing to try and willing to go through the process of saying, I don't know if that's going to work. If we do it this way, maybe that works. So it was a lot of thought process into it, going and thinking of different ways to do stuff. When we got to the record plan is after the first two albums. When we got to the third album, we were doing recorded that whole album in a mansion with Gary Calgren, who owned the record plant, wanted us to come to the record plant. The record plant was full. We sat down with Gary and Eddie Kramer, and Gary said, "What if we use a castle? I have a castle that I owned that's right above Sunset Boulevard. All the rooms are empty. We can do whatever we want. We could get a mobile truck, pull it in there, and we can, get different sounds and stuff." So Eddie said, "Well, let's go there. Let's get it." So we all went to the castle. We looked at it. We had some great ideas floating around and stuff, and that's what we did. We had different rooms for different sounds. Telephone Exchange, the vocal was in this round cylinder room that we hung a mic up in the top, and I sang with a mic really up close. We had a shotgun mic as well. So there were different things that we experimented with, and from the third album on, it was always experimenting with different sounds and able to get different ideas going for even after Angel. We used to sit. When we did stuff with Andy Johns, Barry and I used to always pick his brains, and say, well, how did you do that Zeppelin thing? And, so we always, it's, with all of us, in Angel, we were always trying to look at different sounds and different ways to get different ideas going.
Well, and it's, looking back, so all these bands that you saw as a kid, the Beatles and Led Zeppelin, now you're working with guys who recorded them. Eddie Kramer, recorded all those bands, but the Beatles for one, and then Andy Johns with Led Zeppelin. So it's got to be pretty amazing being a kid hearing this music and now to be doing this and then playing in this show that's larger than life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, when I look back on it, it's kind of like a roller coaster ride that when you're in the eye of the hurricane, you're not able to see everything that's going on. You're just in there for the ride. You know what I mean? So everything that's going on is just happening and going on so fast that it becomes part of the reality of your life and what you're doing. And you don't have time to really think about it until you look back on it and you go, yeah, well, that was pretty crazy, because by that time, we had already been doing shows. We were doing shows with people that, that we, had gone to see play. Now all of a sudden we're opening for a lot of these bands. So it was a great experience, and you made a lot of friends with bands that you didn't think particularly too much of when you went to see them, but when we played with them, you get a greater appreciation for them, and other bands that you thought a lot about, you don't know. It's an interesting vortex that you become involved in. It's like it's crazy. You have a different outlook on everything. It's a totally different way of looking at things.
And so and so if this World of Angel couldn't get any crazier, you have to add this movie, right? So. Those who haven't seen the movie Foxes, this movie stars a young Jodie Foster, Tariq Curry from The Runaways, Chachi, Scott Baio, and Randy Quaid. Before Scott Baio and Randy Quaid were insane. Angel is in this movie.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, and it's so weird because we did shoot a lot more footage that was in the movie. I guess apparently got cut out. I mean, I don't know how much, film they originally filmed, but we shot a lot more footage. We shot some stuff. I believe it was down, like dressing room stuff. And Adrian Lyne was the director. So, I mean, who's done some amazing stuff. Great director. And also we did that Angel thing at the show, and for the movie was done at the Shrine Auditorium, and I believe Michael. I don't think Michael was in the band yet. In that band, Michael DeBar. I was thinking that band was the band I was thinking of was Detective, because I know Michael Monarch and John Hyde was the drummer. I believe they were like the opening band supposedly for Angel in the movie. And so there were shots of those guys as well that were on the side of the stage. And I don't know if that made it to the movie. I can't remember. But there was a lot of different things that were that were cut out of the movie that never made it.
And how did that opportunity come about?
Well, we had been, a lot of people were sending us scripts, and we wanted to do a movie at that time, something that made sense. And Neil kept putting it off, saying, "Don't worry about it. Let us come up," because they were just developing Casablanca Filmworks at the time. So they said, "Let us, come up with some ideas and let's see what's out there." And we gave him a script to a couple of different movies and stuff. And we thought one script was really good, but he didn't want us to use it. He said, "Wait, I think I can get a better script and a better movie that we can do." And finally he came up with this Foxes thing. And, it's interesting, we were supposed to be the focal point of the movie, just like Kiss was the focal point of their movie.
Yeah, you needed to have Angel meets the Phantom.
Yeah, but we sat there, we filmed the movie, we went to the grand opening, and the first thing we saw was Jodie Foster's bedroom, and there was pictures of Kiss, and there was a Donna Summer song playing. So we thought, well, I guess there goes that idea of it being really an Angel movie. So yeah, there was, look, when we came out with an album, we had to fight with Kiss, and we had to fight with Donna Summer as far as when they were putting out their albums, and so we weren't high on the priority list. We were down a few rungs with that stuff. So it was always a battle.
This photo we're looking at is a young Jodie Foster playing guitar with Angel.
Yeah, Jodie's mom was there on the set at all times. I remember her being there all the time, but it was a fun time. It was very relaxed. It wasn't, we did the shoot whenever they asked us to do stuff. We did it a number of times at different perspectives and stuff. So we were already used to that because we were in the process of doing an Angel live thing that we had recorded, a live show in Cleveland that Peter Lake, I think at the time, which was who was the guy that did Jaws? It was Peter Gruber, I think, as well. So they were involved in doing that stuff back then, and no one knows where that footage went, but we shot a whole show in Cleveland, and I believe I'm not sure if the Babies opened up that show or if it was Sammy Hagar when he was doing solo stuff. But it was a show that everyone came dressed in white. All the fans. Yeah, it was the Angel in White show, and it was set up so that they were shooting. You were going to be in the movie because we were shooting a movie and all that stuff. So all that footage of the show itself and the audience is somewhere out there that no one seems to be able to find. So if you find that, you'll see the whole show with all the illusions and everything. And I'm assuming the opening shows as well as the audience out there all dressed in white, which was crazy because when we first came out, to see an audience, a sea of white people dressed in white was crazy. Was crazy. And then we went back to LA and we did pickup shots at where we rehearsed at the Gower lot, because those were big sound stages where we used to have Rainbow used to rehearse next to us, Deep Purple rehearsed next to us when it was Glenn Hughes and what's the singer? Age must be hitting me.
Of Rainbow?
No, the singer of
Deep Purple.
Yeah,
Ian Gillan.
No, after Ian Gillan with Glenn Hughes and David
Coverdale.
David Coverdale, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and also ELO. They did their whole show out there. We were able to watch that whole thing out there, and also that Gower lot was great too. That was a lot of fun rehearsing out there. The Gong Show movie was out there. we were there for the final cut of the Gong Show movie and the backstage party that went on after they watched the whole show. They filmed it when they broke down and stuff. So yeah, the Gower lot was pretty crazy as well. So
yeah, I mean, you guys are around all the coolest people, and you have all the opportunities, and it seems like it's going right. And we're going to pause on Angel for a minute,
okay.
and we're going to talk about your solo career in between,
okay.
and then we're going to go back to Angel.
Okay.
Before that happens, the first time Angel breaks up, tell me what happened.
What happened was, let's see, it was Jack Douglas was supposed to do the last album. We didn't look at it as it was going to be the last album, but we had left at that point. We had left our management, and we were leaning towards signing with Lieber and Krebs. We did the marathon tour, which we decided to do without our white costumes because we thought, okay, it's a brand new Angel. It kind of like what Kiss did, I guess, unmasking. Mm-hmm. You wanted to get rid of the whole thing. You felt like this was a new beginning, and we wanted to, wanted it to be about the music and stuff, like we always did. We always wanted it to be about the music. That's why we never had any of the illusions go on while we played. There was never anything going on while we played.
Right.
So we decided to do this tour, which was going to be combining all the road crews from Angel, Humble Pie, and Mahogany Rush. So we have the same road crew working together for the three bands, because it was the only way it was going to work, because it was three kind of headlining bands that weren't really, I don't think any of the three of us were able to headline consistently at all these huge arenas that we were playing.
Sure.
So the idea was to flip-flop different areas where Angel was able to sell out, different areas where Humble Pie was able to sell out, and different areas where Mahogany Rush was able to sell it. So that was the idea. We would combine the road crews, take the best of each road crew, and we went into San Antonio where the first show was, and David Krebs rented that arena there where we rehearsed the show. We had 2 or 3 nights to rehearse the show to get the crew on board, but how this whole thing was it was a huge undertaking. It really was for the three bands. And we had to get everyone online, and no more of the bullshit of, hey, you only got 30 minutes and this is it. That's in the 70s. That's the way it was. I mean, if you're a special guest, you got 45 minutes, you go over it, we're cutting you off.
Right.
The lights are going up, or the electricity's going out.
It's still like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a little better now than it was back then. It's not so cutthroat as it was back then. We used to have a huge guy. In fact, we took a couple of the guys from the road crew of KISS. We took Peter Orikento, who was Moose back then. We called Moose, and we also had. God, I can't think of his name. He just passed away. It's horrible. He was such a great guy to have. I'll think of it as we go along. But yeah, we used to have a big guy. Yeah, our road crew was huge. We used to have a big guy standing near the power. If we were special guesting, to make sure no one hit the power.
Smart.
Huh?
Smart move. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I don't think we have to do that anymore. But back, that's what we used to have to do. Yeah, it was pretty crazy back then.
On the note of those three bands, you talk about three bands. One of the things you have in common is none of those bands really got their due. I mean, Humble Pie had some, but you would have people argue that Humble Pie was one of the all-time greats, and then Mahogany Rush also. Guitar players know, but another band that kind of got lost in the shuffle, and then Angel as well.
Yeah, Steve Marriott, he's the top guy for me. I mean, he's has very, if any, peers. As far as where he's at, the fun part about that whole tour was I was able to go on stage with him almost every other night as the tour went on. I went up there and sang with him, and also with Bobby Tench, who was the singer in the second Jeff Beck group. He was playing guitar. So I had these two great singers that I used to sing with every night. After we were done with the show, the three of us would go down in the Angel bus or the Humble Pie bus and sing old, Hank Williams tunes, any tune that we could do. We used to do 3-part harmonies for all that stuff and just sing all night long. Amazing. And to the point where they used to, Steve used to bring me up on stage. I used to do, so many songs with them that were so exciting for me, because for me, Steve was a great, one of the greatest singers in rock and roll.
For a lot of people, yeah, that's really one of those icons, who's definitely gone too soon also.
Yeah,
but yeah, what an honor to be on stage with him each night. So tell me what happens now that Angel's going to disband? Yeah,
so we get back after that tour, and we're no longer associated with Neil. Neil has sold Casablanca. We're on Polygram, and we don't know anybody in Polygram. We have a lawyer who's doing all our stuff, and we're ready to do the next album. And I asked Jack we talked about Jack Douglas doing it, and I had been hanging out with Jack at the record plant, who I had become friendly with because of Eddie Leonetti. Eddie and I became a close relationship, and Eddie worked under Jack's umbrella, his production company. Eddie did the White Hot and the Sinful album for us. So I'd been hanging out with Jack, and Jack's name was brought up. And so we said, yeah, Jack would be a great idea. So I asked Jack if he'd do the album, and Jack was committed to do, I forget who it was. It was a Canadian solo artist at the time. And he said, I'm committed to do it. I don't think I'll be able to do it. So I badgered him as much as I could, and going back and forth with our lawyer and Polygram, thinking, well, everything's going to be fine because we got in the contract, there's a certain amount of money that goes to the production, certain amount of percentage that points that go to the producer, that's split up evenly between Angel and the record company. So it shouldn't be a problem. Let's work out the details. We work out the details with Jack. Lawyer goes back to Polygram and says, this is what we got. We want to use Jack and this and that. And Polygram says, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to give you that amount for the production, and we feel that Angel should be paying all of the percentage for Jack for being the producer. Otherwise, use a cheaper producer or someone else or whatever. So there was all this stuff going back and forth, and just by the time it got to be so tiring that Jack pulled out of it. He couldn't wait any longer. The rest of us were in limbo. That's when we kept on trying to do what we were doing. And ended up Felix kind of, I don't know how, I don't really quite remember how that came about, but Felix kind of ended up pulling away. That's when Rudy Sarzo came into the picture. And we tried to keep it together with that. And then Rudy got the offer from Ozzy, from Randy calling him. And Rudy told me about the offer, and I said, you know what, we're in a state of limbo right now. There's nothing we can do. We don't have a budget for our next record. We don't have a producer for our next record. It's just that same thing that almost that nightmare thing that you hear that every band goes through, and that's what we went through. And so Rudy ended up leaving, and when Rudy left, I ended up doing more stuff with Giorgio Moroder. I did so much stuff with Giorgio.
How did you first meet Giorgio? You know, we should point out that Giorgio Moroder is like the legend of disco. He really broke disco in America, and every song he was involved with. So tell us how you got involved with him.
Yeah, I got involved with Giorgio because of the first when we did 20th Century Foxes, which was the supposed to be the title for the Foxes movie. Giorgio was the producer on that, and we did that at the record plant in New York because we were on the road. Greg Punky and myself put the 20th Century Foxes together and another song called Virginia that was going on into the soundtrack. And we took time in between shows in New York City to meet up with Giorgio. We met with each other, him and his guy Harold, and we quickly laid down the tracks. We showed him what we had. We laid down the tracks. I did the vocals for it in a short time period, and I got to know Giorgio because I did a lot of work with him at that point from there. And he said, let's hook up after you're done because I have some other stuff. If you're willing to do some studio stuff, I have some other stuff that, maybe you could do some backgrounds and stuff. I say, absolutely. So what happened was I ended up hooking up with Giorgio when all this stuff was going on with Angel, and I ended up doing backgrounds to a couple of Sparks albums and some other stuff that Giorgio would call me all the time to come in and do it. And after a while, I don't remember the stuff that I did with him. All I remember is that he paid me. He said, "This is what we're doing. Just come down." And I did it. It was just simple stuff, really easy, quickly. We did it quickly, and I had a great rapport with his guy Harold, and I ended up after that, and ended up working with Giorgio at his place up in Truesdale Estates, where we did a lot of the stuff for the Metropolis movie.
Yeah. So Metropolis is an interesting thing to explain.
Yeah.
So Metropolis is a really old movie.
Yes.
That Giorgio somehow got the rights to. I think it went public domain.
Yes, and he somehow got the rights to it and wanted to do a new soundtrack for it. So he was trying to get Paramount on board with it. So he asked me to come up, and he had Keith Forsey with him, who was writing some stuff with him, and this other guy, Sylvie. Harold and Sylvie were I believe they were German. I forget their full names because I just know them on the first name basis, which is kind of crazy. But I used to do a lot of session work with them, and Keith would write some stuff, and I would end up doing that stuff up in Truesdale with Giorgio. And Giorgio wanted more money for the soundtrack, to doing the soundtrack. So he said, we're going to do 4 or 5 songs and have an unveiling at Paramount Studios in their little soundstage there, and have all the bigwigs from Paramount come down so we can get a bigger budget to do it. So he said, this is the way we're going to do it. And I said, oh, well, I'm on board. So he paid me for doing all those sessions, and he promised that I was going to make out big when we got to do the actual soundtrack, which kind of never really happened. But what did happen in the process was one night we kept seeing these rushes of this other movie, Flashdance.
Well, and hold on, before we get to Flashdance, so Metropolis was this legendary movie that Star Wars is. Most people think that Star Wars was sort of influenced by it. The C-3PO character looks like that character. Yeah. So this is this historic thing, and you didn't. What was the name of the band that you were credited to with that movie?
Cycle 5.
Yeah. So,
and I had said to Giorgio, I said when he first came up with the idea, I said, Giorgio, that's a dog food. It doesn't matter. It's a good name. We're going to keep it. Okay. There was really actually no band. It was going to be, we were going to put a band together. He said, well, he had all these great ideas of having John Deacon in the band and having these different players in the band, and I'm saying that, all right, I'm good with that. But the actual band, Cycle 5, was really just studio players at that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, okay. So next thing, there's this small little movie that you're talking about that's not supposed to really be anything.
Right. The big movie was supposed to be Staying Alive, which was the Saturday Night Fever 2, which was John Travolta and Sylvester Stallone was directing. So that was going to be the big movie. And this little movie, Flashdance, had all these little vignettes and stuff like that. We kept seeing, they kept sending rushes of it back because Giorgio was, there were 4 producers doing the soundtrack, and Giorgio was one of the 4 producers. And so in this one scene, they wanted to use brown sugar, and that's what they were going to do. And the Stones said, sure, you can use it, but you got to pay us. And they felt the movie was not going to be big enough to be able to afford what the Rolling Stones wanted for it. So they asked Giorgio, just come up with a song and we'll just put it in that scene. So Giorgio had this idea for the song, this one song. And he said, just write some lyrics for it and come back and, maybe it wasn't even going to be in Flashdance at the time. It was this idea that he had. He said to me, remember that song that I told you to write some lyrics for a long time ago? And I really couldn't remember. And he said, I'm thinking about using it in that movie. So I said, well, I can't remember. Give me a track, a basic track of it. And Keith ended up writing lyrics to it and stuff like that. And we had some ideas for melodies and stuff. And I had just gotten done working, finishing up the Metropolis stuff for that day, which was daily. We were going in daily doing this Metropolis stuff and finishing up songs for that. And I was sitting with Keith talking. We were having a cognac in Giorgio, one of Giorgio's rooms, just laying back. And we had done our work for the day because Keith was writing for the Metropolis stuff as well. And we were finished just talking. And Giorgio said, listen, I want you to come in and sing that song. I said, what? what song? I thought we were done for the day. I just had a few drinks. He said, no, you don't worry about it. We'll just, Giorgio was so impulsive with stuff like that. And so he said, just come in, we'll just do it. And honestly, it's one of the fastest vocals I think I've ever done. I think I did like 3 takes at the most, and it ends up being, on this Grammy-nominated album, which obviously Michael Jackson won everything that year. But it's crazy how it was so quick, and it was like the last thing of the day. We had thought we were done for the day. I go back on it and we do some stuff. I did some pickup stuff after it, like backgrounds and stuff like that. But the initial vocal was just really, I think, like 4 takes at the most.
Yeah, this song has seduced me tonight.
Yeah,
from the Flashdance soundtrack. It's funny, Frank. I work with a singer named Joe Esposito.
Yes,
and he has so many parallels to your career as well, because he was on Casablanca with the Brooklyn Dreams,
right?
And he ended up writing songs for Donna Summer, Bad Girls and some of the
right.
And then he became friends with Giorgio, and Giorgio kind of gave him the same thing. There's this small movie, and then he got the song "Lady, Lady, Lady" on that soundtrack. But he also did the Staying Alive movie at the same time. So
it's pretty crazy. Yeah. It's all pretty crazy, isn't it? Things overlap. Yeah.
And it's funny though that these small things, something that you sing in one pass, becomes part of your life, and a Grammy-nominated, record.
Yeah. Right.
So I want to talk a little bit about, now we'll move fast, about what some of the other guys in Angel were doing this time. Now, Felix, he played with White Lion on their first album.
Yeah.
A Fight to Survive.
Mm-hmm.
So they were based out of Brooklyn in New York. And so he went and played with them for a little while, and it didn't work out. They changed members. But he was still playing. Greg had the band House of Lords.
Yes.
Which Gene Simmons also got his hands on. He probably made up for the Angel money that he missed out on.
Yeah, and in between that stuff, there was like I said, I was doing a lot of studio stuff for Giorgio, and Greg tried to put a version of Angel together with Ricky Phillips and Fergie Fredrickson, and it's oddly enough too, I called Fergie to come in and do some stuff with me, to background stuff that Giorgio had asked me to. He said I need 2 vocals, so I called Fergie. I called him and said, "Hey, listen, you want to do some stuff for Giorgio? I've done a lot of stuff with him. He's easy to work with. You just come in, he'll give you the part. We'll work the part out. You and I will do, we'll figure out which part you want to take. It doesn't matter to me. We'll just figure out which is the easier part. And when we sing the backgrounds, we get paid in cash, and you're done." He said, "Yeah, sure." So he came down and he did a couple of sessions with me for Giorgio while that thing was going on with Greg and Punky and Barry.
Now, did those guys call you to be an Angel again? What was the story?
No. It had disintegrated to me at that point for so long, and not being able to do anything, and so I ended up, calling Barry and saying, "Listen, Barry, I don't think I'm going to stay with this any longer. I mean, I think I'm going to try and do some other stuff." I had a relationship with Paul Raymond as well, so I was thinking about doing some stuff with him, because Paul and I did a lot of recordings when Angel was off the road and UFO were off the road. So I did a lot of stuff with him. It was Paul, myself, and we had Earl Slick with us for a while, and Mitch Perry was playing with us for a while. It was just getting to the point where I felt like we're not doing anything. We're just stagnant. We're not even rehearsing anymore. Felix is not with us. Rudy was with us, but now he's gone with Ozzy. So there was really nothing going on at all. So I said to him, I think I'm going to pull out of it, and if anything comes back together again, give me a call. But they never really call me back or anything like that.
But were you okay with them trying to do an Angel without you?
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't even think of it. I mean, they were doing something and I was doing something, and I didn't think of it as them trying to put Angel together. To me, at that point, I think it was just another project. So I didn't know if they were going to call it Angel or what they were going to do with it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, looking back on it, that's probably was that their idea, but it wasn't like, hey, we're going to put a new Angel together and you're not going to be part of it. It wasn't like that. It was like we drifted away and they were doing stuff and I was doing stuff. And I just thought, well, it just happened to be that they called Barry and Barry wasn't doing anything either. So, and I didn't have really a band. So I was living off doing, and apart from Giorgio stuff, I was doing movie soundtracks. I was doing calls. So I had gotten to do a lot of like studio work where I was doing calls on, I did that In the Custody of Strangers. That was that first Emilio Estevez, Martin Sheen movie. I did a couple of songs on that I did. And there was a lot of made for television movies that I did. There was that Hollywood Madam with Faye Dunaway. I did some stuff on that. So there was a lot of stuff that I was doing.
You were working.
Yeah, I was working.
So now I'm moving ahead, obviously, but so Mickey Jones, original drummer, he a bass player, he passes away.
Yeah.
So that rules out any, obviously, a reunion of that lineup. So after those guys do their take on Angel, years later, you do your own. You put a band together that had no other members, right?
No, it was Barry and myself.
Okay, so you had Barry. Okay, so it's you and the drummer, and then you guys went out and did Angel. Now, at this point, I'm assuming Greg was already filthy rich, as they say.
yeah, he didn't give a shit, I guess, at that point. What happened was, listen, Barry and I have always stayed close. We're look, may not be blood brothers, but we're brothers. So we've always stayed very close and always in touch with each other. So obviously, when I want to do something, and Barry is available, I call Barry and ask Barry, "What are you doing? Let's do something." So at the point of that, Barry and I had some stuff that we had written together because we had been writing a lot of stuff from White Hot. We started writing. Obviously, we wrote "Don't Leave Me Lonely" together and some other tunes, and we wrote a few tunes on the Sinful album together. So we had a lot of other stuff that we never used with Angel. So we thought of putting something together. Again, we didn't put this together thinking we're going to call it Angel. We just wanted to put something together, get out there, play, and record again, just get back out there. So that was what was in our heads. When we got to the point of finally putting the songs together, getting ready to go into the studio, that's when we said, okay, what are we going to call this thing? Do we call it something new? Do we call it Angel? I mean, we asked Punky. Punky was at that point felt like he was retired. He didn't want to go out anymore. He didn't want to play anymore with, he played in his house. He kept playing.
I got to point out real quick about Punky, and you can confirm this was not. He turned down Kiss, he turned down Aerosmith, and he turned down the New York Dolls, correct?
Yes. I'm not quite sure exactly how all the Aerosmith thing went on. But look, I turned down Boston. I didn't know, and I turned down Motley Crue.
Wow.
So I don't think any of us have a great track record. I mean, Nikki called me up one time and said, listen, I'm trying to put. This was in the London days. I'm trying to put something together, and it wasn't like Motley Crue's getting a new singer. I didn't even ask what if it was going to be Motley Crue, and I didn't know. If he was going to continue with what he was doing. He was just putting something together. And I had happened to be in the middle of putting something together at that time with Paul Raymond and the guitar player who going back to what I did in my solo thing, that I wrote the songs that I wrote with on my solo album, Old Habits Die Hard, with Jeff Labansky. He is a guitar player that I knew back then. So we were trying to put something together back then with it was me, Paul Raymond, Jeff Labansky, and John Brandt, who played with Cheap Trick after that. So we were trying to put something together, and Nikki just happened. It never developed, but Nikki just happened to call me at the time where I was trying to put that together. So I said, I'm in the middle now. I don't know I really can't commit to that when I've already committed to try and put this thing together. So that's how that fell apart. And with the Boston thing, that was I didn't know. Obviously, they were in Boston at the time, and they through a cousin of mine who was back in Boston asked me to go down to hear this band. They were looking for a singer, and I said, I've already got this other thing in DC. I was just back visiting my parents in Boston. He said, well, just go down and listen to them. I told their manager that you were a singer. They were looking for a singer, so just go down and listen to them. So I went down and listened to them, and I thought they were good. I mean, they didn't have the drummer yet. I think the bass player, Fran, I think his name was. I think he had just joined the band. It was Barry Gaudreau, and it was Tom. And I talked to Tom, just Tom, the whole time. And you know, they had a couple of songs. I believe More Than a Feeling they played for me, but it wasn't, obviously, it wasn't More Than a Feeling that you hear now. It was on a little tape recorder and stuff. But, you know, we did some stuff together, and Tom called me the next day and said, yeah, you know, maybe I'd like to do some stuff with you. Maybe we can put something together. And I said, you know, Tom, I'm really sorry, but I'm really committed to this other thing in DC, and they've asked me to go back there. And I've committed to them first, and I really can't do that. So that's how that thing didn't happen, you know. So you know,
80 million records right before your eyes between those two bands.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the thing, you know, the same thing with Punky, you know, with the Kiss thing, he never said no, I'm not going to do it. It was like, I think Gene just took him wrong when he said, I'm in the middle of this thing that I'm doing with Greg, and I guess Gene took it as, I'm not going to do this with you. So that's what I'm saying. I think, you know, both of us were in the middle of being misunderstood, and you know, it wasn't like, you know, hey, you turned down this crazy offer, like, you know.
These things are fun to say.
Yeah.
I mean, and they make great stories after, but
right.
You could never have guessed that these bands were going to become what they would, right, especially at those stages. And I believe, as far as Punky goes, the Dolls was, I'm just guessing the time they wanted him, it was on the way out. Thunders was gone.
Right. And it looked like a mess, I think, at that point. And
it didn't last long. And, maybe you know, the guitar player who did it was Blackie Lawless of Wasp.
Oh, really?
That was the final guitar player in the Dolls, and it did not last very long. So it's not like he turned down something crazy. And then as far as Aerosmith goes, maybe it was in some of those leaner years as well.
Yeah, and I think Punky was out in Boston there for a while, and I think he was living. I don't know if he was living close by Steven or some of the other guys, Brad, or some of the guys out there, but. I don't know exactly what was going on back then at that time, but I don't think it was like, hey, we're getting rid of Joe, come on in, and you know, yeah, it wasn't exactly like that. I don't know the whole story with it, so I really couldn't give you a whole lot of background to that.
We're making exciting headlines, but yeah. Right, yeah. But okay, so at this point, you and Barry are going to go do Angel.
Yeah.
Greg's doing his own thing.
Right.
And Punky's not really interested at the time. He's retired from music.
And so Felix is in New York now. He's doing something totally different. He's not really playing music that much anymore. So Barry and I are on a roll. We're going, okay, we gotta see if we can put something together. And we got some help from this a friend of ours in New York. And we used a guitar player that from DC, from our old days in DC, that we knew, Richard Marcello, who used to come down when we put Max together back in the early days, whether it was me, Mickey, and Barry. He used to come down and jam with us late at night after we were done rehearsing. He used to come out and jam with us back then, and of course, you know, he knew Punky. He was from DC, so all of us knew each other and stuff. So Richard was an easy guy to say, hey, look. We're trying to put something together here. Come on out. He was in LA at the time. Come on over. Let's see if we can put this thing together and see what we can get out of it. We didn't really have a bass player. We had someone who we had sitting in at different times with us at that time, and we were just moving forward with recording. Right. We hadn't thought about really putting a live show together or anything. We were just trying to put songs together and get a record deal.
Yeah. Okay. So. And so you did. I mean, you made records and you toured with that for a while, and you kind of, and
Yes.
people were seeing this version of Angel. Obviously, a lot of people who never would have seen the original Angel. You're reaching different audiences. You're on bills with, you know, some younger bands too, you know, more of contemporary for that time. And so you do that for a while. And I'm going to move ahead because you did stop doing that at some point, and you concentrated on your solo career.
Yeah.
And you were living here in Las Vegas at the time, which is where I met you.
Right.
And so you had bands around, you know, Vegas as well. And so you knew everybody on the scene out here. It was time to make a solo record.
Yeah, you know, it's weird. It's almost like it was back in the day, back in Georgetown, like I was saying. There became a little community here of musicians. All of a sudden, when I first came out here, that wasn't the case. It was a few guys here and a few guys there, and you know, it was very you know, a lot of lounge show kind of stuff as well. You know, I used to go down to the Riviera and do this thing with Lon what's his name? Bronson, yeah. And he used to start like at 1 a.m, you know, and there was guys that used to come down from Wayne Newton's band who would sit in, and just different bands from you know, big shows and stuff like that. And if you're lucky, you'd get up there, and you know, I used to say, just give me a song and I'll do it. So they challenged me one night to do the first night I sat in with them to do "Give Me Some Lovin'" in the same key. I said, that's fine, let's do it. So I went up there and I did it. And from that point on, they brought me up, you know, every other week at 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 in the morning. But yeah, it was that kind of thing. It didn't happen until a few years later when it started to build up and be really you know, a community of musicians, you know.
Yeah, well, when I think a lot of people figured out that it was more affordable to live here in Vegas, and then there also started to become more work. You know, when I put together Sin City Sinners with those guys, that was 2007, right. And it was starting to happen, but we would bring in guests to play, and they would come in from LA and stuff. And I can't tell you how many of those guests have moved to Vegas seeing, hey, they'll pay me to play music, and I, you know, I don't have to commute to work for 2 hours every day, and you know, right. And so and that's where we met as well, because I knew Angel, and I knew that we could market it together, and so we had you do guest with us a ton of times, you know. Whenever we needed a sub, you would come in. One of my favorites is that we had Jizzy Pearl singing with us, and our special guest was Carlos Cavazo of Quiet Riot. Yeah. But Frankie Vinali told Jizzy Pearl, you're not allowed to sing Quiet Riot songs with any other band. I try to argue that they're Slade songs, but it didn't work. Yeah, right. So we brought you to sing with Carlos the Quiet Riot songs, and then the singer for Quiet Riot sang the Rat songs.
Yeah, that's so crazy, isn't it?
It's the weirdest incestuous world. But we had you sing on 2 Christmas records.
Yes, which are
great. People love them. I got to say, your track was the most downloaded. People loved it, and we gave all the money from that to Toys for Tots for Kids. Yes. Every year, you come out to our Toys for Tots Christmas benefit show. And I got to say, Frank, you've been such a great friend and always there. You know, I remember once I said you would do charity walks for us, events, every kind of charity racket I had, you were into doing it. And I remember once I was getting some award, and I said, "You sure you want to go to this?" And you said, "When I'm with you, I'm with you." And that's when I realized, Frank, that you're a loyal guy in an industry full of, you know, phony people sometimes. Your word is what it is, and you showed up. I remember a show, Frank. I needed you to sing like that night, and your car broke down on the freeway or something, and which would have been our sound check. Can you be there in an hour? You know, okay, I'll be there in an hour.
I'll make it.
Yeah, and you came and you sang a great show. You know, we would have known.
You know, and every time we did something together, it was always fun. So that's part of it too. You know, when it's not a job, when it's not a pain in the ass to do, then it makes it so much easier to be able to say yes. And that's a big part of it as well. So, I mean, I trust you when you ask me to do something like that, that it's going to be something worthwhile to put together. And you know, from that first time, you know, back at the, where was that? What was that? The old dive bar, right? Yeah. I mean, that was a fun time. I mean, coming down there and working with Todd, and it was, you know, it was very easy to do stuff. You know, I mean, you know, they picked up on songs that whatever song it was, they knew, and it made it easy for me to do it. So I was always comfortable with it.
Yeah, and so that, yeah, and that was the beginning lineup of that band. And you know, Todd went on to Slash, and everyone had their own things. And then later on, I had Oz Fox from Stryper, who had been playing with you in a band also, and we had Blas Elias from Slaughter. Yep. And these guys were fans.
I just saw Blas the other day.
Did you? Where did you see him?
Oddly enough, at the grocery store.
That's funny. You guys live in the upper class section. I don't see anyone like that in my neighborhood. I saw him too, but it was on one of these chats. But these guys were Angel fans, and we were able to play some Angel songs in the show. And I think, again, he turned some people on to music that they might not have known. I remember Eddie Trunk saying to me, "What do you mean you found Frank Dimino and Angel?" You know, he was really excited. And and I remember we were kind of trying to build some Angel hype again. And this is also when the Vegas Rocks Awards, which I directed for Sally Steele here in Vegas, she had an idea to call it the Glam Rock Awards, I think.
Yeah.
And the idea was to get Angel back, and she's going to give Angel an award, like the Legends Award.
Right.
And it was, you know, I got to say, it was really exciting to see you guys together, and something really fun, because you knew you were seeing a group of guys who have not been a roommate together for ages.
Yeah.
And everyone's getting older. And now it doesn't even matter if you're getting older. Life is crazy. And so what I'm interested in is, how come we can't get this band to play together? And I'm going to narrow down my theories. Obviously, Punky's in. Punky made a solo record. He started playing with you. You guys are Angel right now. We're going to talk about the new Angel record. We're going to talk about the last Angel record. We're going to get there. So you guys are in. Greg Giuffria went on to invent casino technology. I think that's how you describe it. He also, I believe, he owns a piece of casinos.
Yes, he did. He did own part of the Hard Rock in Mississippi, but I think he sold his share in that. I don't know if he has any other. I mean, I talk to Greg all the time, but we don't talk about business stuff like that.
Of course, yeah. But he has a lot of reasons not to want to go out and travel, you know. And I got to say, you know, we're name dropping like crazy, but this is this life, which is cool. I did a charity event, and some of the people, it was for a chef, Kerry Simon, who passed away. Bill Murray's hosting the event, and I'm putting together these people to play. And so the people that they brought in were Slash and Alice Cooper and Vince Neil, a very stellar lineup. And they wanted Todd Rundgren. And so I go, okay, I'll find a band for Todd Rundgren. So I call Kip Winger and I say, you come play bass. And he goes, we need a keyboard player. You can't play Todd Rundgren music without a keyboard. And I go, well, you better find somebody. And he goes, I'm gonna get Greg Giuffria. And Greg said, I haven't played the keyboards in a lot of years. And when he showed up to sound check, no one even knew what he looked like. We were expecting a guy with long blonde hair. Someone said to me, who's Robert Mitchum over there? I said, I'm not positive. And he introduced himself. And I went, wow. And I
got to tell you the story. The same kind of story. When I first came out here to Vegas, when I first moved here, I said, you know, well, I'm here. I'm in Vegas. It would be wrong if I don't get in touch with Greg and at least say hi. We should meet, maybe have coffee or something, because you know, we've only talked over the phone. I hadn't seen him in years, right? So I called him and we had a great conversation. He said, "Why don't you come to my office?" So I said, "Okay." So we made a date and said, so I get ready. I go to the office. I'm still me. I go in there looking like this, and I go to the address. I walk into the office and I see this guy walking out with his hand around this girl, and he's got glasses. They're down to here, just regular glasses. And he's looking over his glasses, and he's got this girl, and he's talking to her. He said, "Okay, see you later." And I'm going, "Oh, who the fuck is that?" And he looks up and he says, "Hey, what's going on?" "It's Greg." I said, "What the fuck happened?" So I
you
the same thing.
Yeah, if you had it, this is the guy you spent your career with.
Yeah.
So okay, so we know he's a businessman, but he did come out and jam with you. He did come play with you and Punky. He played keys, which was really cool. So
he also came out when I did, my solo album. He came out to when I did the initial what was it, the kind of
record
grand
release party.
Yeah, the release party. So so I had a good relationship with Greg. I mean, we've gone through tough times with each other at different points, but we've always all of us have kept in touch with each other, I think.
So now we know why he's not there. So what's Felix Robinson doing that he doesn't want to?
Well, I don't think that Felix went through some health problems after he had done the solo thing with Punky. So what happens is that I'm doing my solo stuff, and Felix had some health problems, so Punky had to find another bass player to fill in, and he ended up finding someone that he was using for a while, and I'm doing my solo stuff, and in between that, we did do that. I asked him to sing to play on my solo album, and he asked me to sing on his solo album, and with the three of us did that video together. Punky, Felix, and myself. But what happens is now Punky and I are doing separate things, and we both have our own bands. And I get a call after I sat in with him when Punky played Vegas. He asked me if I want to come up and sing. So I said, "Sure, I'll come by." So I went by, and we sang. We did the Tower together, and it just felt really comfortable together. I mean, back on stage. You don't realize how easy. Sometimes it's not, but it was easy again. Playing and seeing him over there, which I was so used to seeing that same face and that same person over there. So it was easy playing with him again, and doing our solo thing was it was getting difficult, and so I got a call, and he said, "What do you think about doing some stuff together?" Because I don't think our singer is going to be able to do some shows. He's doing some other things. So maybe either fill in, see how it works, see how you feel. And I said, "Okay, yeah, sure. I don't mind doing that." So I put on hold some of the shows that we were going to do for my solo thing, which were still way far ahead. It's not like they were coming up next week and I postponed them. They were way far down the line. So I put them off. I said, "Okay, let's not book anything any earlier than that. Let's see what's going on." So I went down to New York. We put together a band, a different drummer, and a bass player that he was gonna use, or maybe was at the beginning stages of using. Didn't play on the album because obviously Felix did, and we felt like it was a new band. Same keyboard player that he had, but we felt like it was a new band, and we kind of like were gelling together, and we started to feel comfortable. We did some shows together. We did more shows together. The shows were becoming really exciting to do. We had to really started to get really good crowds that were really coming because of Angel and not because of our individual solo projects. Right. And it started to blossom into something. So
did Barry not want to do it?
No, Barry did not want to do it. I asked Barry. I always ask Barry to do, whenever I'm doing something. Barry did not want to go back out on the road. He just didn't like. He didn't like it when we put the other thing together because he was having to play on different drum kits. He was from a different era of things. Yes. I mean, he wanted his setup. He wanted to play on his setup. He wanted to do everything that he knew he could do on his setup. So he was uncomfortable doing a lot of that stuff, and he wasn't into the traveling anymore either.
Yes, well, you guys aren't kids. You know, this is
Right.
a lot of years later, and touring is very different and much harder on you now. You know,
So much harder.
yeah.
You know how many times I look over to Punky these days and say, you know, where the fuck is that road crew that we used to have? You know what I mean? We didn't used to have to do this shit. Now I'm carrying all my shit. He's carrying his guitar, his amplifier, you know? So yeah, it's a lot different than what it used to be, but you do it because it's so much a part of you. I mean, for me, it's always been a part of me. So it's so ingrained in me that I do whatever I have to do to sing. I mean,
Well, you never stopped, you evolved. So you watched the things change and the fly dates and these things happen, and you evolve with that time. You always sang, so your voice was strong. You're still teaching students. So, but for a lot of guys, a lot of bands get back together, and these guys are expecting it to be like the old days. And then they see that you're playing a bowling alley or a parking lot, and there's 8 bands, and you spent 4 flights to get there. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's not easy. So I can understand why some guys, you know, are not really cut out or want to continue doing that, you know, chasing that dream. You still are making music. And so I want to point out again, real quick, because we did kind of gloss over it, is the record Old Habits Die Hard. This is your solo record. I'm going to put links up to all these things so people can buy them. This one's a little harder to find now, but I think you can listen to it.
You know, it's been re-released by Punky and I and Danny just signed a management deal with Ron Rainey Management. So Ron has a record company as well. So he's licensed it from Frontiers, and he's putting it back out for re-release. So
great,
be back out there.
Yeah, because if you try to buy one of these on Amazon right now, it'll cost you like $6 million. Yeah. So, but anyway, this is a really great record. You shot some videos for it. You had some amazing players. Paul Crook from Anthrax and Meatloaf. He's the musical director of Meatloaf's band. Oz Fox from Stryper played on this, right?
Yep. Punky played on it. Punky Meadows. The great Pat Thrall played again.
Pat Thrall, incredible.
Great solo on it. Ricky Medlock from Blackfoot, and now he's been with Lynyrd Skynyrd for years now. Just a great slide player, and it was one of the. It was a track that I just thought a slide guitar would be great for it, and you know, Ken Ciancimino, who was the executive producer, he's the one that got me involved with doing a solo album. He called Ricky up, and Ricky said, yeah, you know, whatever you need. So we sent Ricky the track, and he did the slide, great slide solo on it. And so thankful for all those guys. And also, I don't want to forget Eddie Ojeda played. Oh,
yeah.
From Twisted.
I have Eddie on here next week.
Oh, yeah, I love Eddie. Eddie's a great guy.
Great guy, yeah. So I know I'm keeping you all day here, but so you got to tell me about the microphone stand. I know about it, but you got to tell me the origin of it, and that it's still with you to this day. Tell me.
To this day, yeah. I got it made when we were at when I was telling you earlier about the Garo lot. Well, the Garo lot had sound stages, and there was so many things going on there, and obviously they did a lot of prop work stuff for different movies that were being made, or a television series. The series Soap back in the 70s was shot there. So there were different places that made all these things, you know, for props. And one of the guys in the crew said, why don't, because I kept trying to figure out how to make a mic stand that wouldn't break, because I used to throw it around all the time, and all those Atlas, I liked the Atlas mic stand, which was the round bottom and you screwed them in, but you'd be able to bend it too easy. So one of our guys on a road crew said, why don't we go to one of these guys over here and see if, you know, these prop guys, they can make something. So they were doing a show that was it was called something for the Hollywood Stars. They used to shoot up in Malibu, and they used to make all these different things for
was it Battle of the Network Stars?
Yeah, something like that. And they
have the celebrities compete in like Olympic type sports.
Yes, exactly. So they made all these things that will break down, collapsible, put it back up. And so I asked them to make me a stand, and they said they thought that was interesting. So one of the guys said, yeah, give us some ideas of what you're looking for. So I said, I just need something that has a collar that can hold so it won't bend when I got it. Need a pipe, obviously, that I don't want it to move up and down. I want it one length. And so we went through the whole thing, and so they went ahead and they took all these measurements. I told them the weight that I wanted was the Atlas stand. I wanted it round. So they came up with this idea of these triangles that were going like that. And when I first got it, it was kind of heavy, a little bit heavier. So they said, what if we cut holes? I mean, everyone thinks it was a great design that I came up with, but they said it was to get less weight on the bottom base. So they said we can cut holes and get some of that metal out of there.
The HR Pufnstuf guy, Pufnstuf guy wasn't available.
Yeah. So that's why I ended up having this thing that kind of looks like, I guess, space age, but that's the reason why the holes were there.
It's amazing because it looks like that you designed it to be this thing. And so to this day, every show you play with it. I've seen you bring the white tape.
Yeah.
It's a meticulous process. You do it every show that it has to be assembled. Tell me the case that you keep it in.
I didn't realize this was work until so many years later, because it used to just go in the trunk in the cases, our cases. So when I got out here, I had to figure out, how do I carry this thing around? So I had to end up cutting it. So I still didn't want it to go up and down. So I found this guy out here, someone out here that did props. It was the ones out on Valley View, which they do all the lighting and they do the sound and they do the props for all the stuff on the strip. So they came up with a design for me where I could cut it and screw it back in. So I was able to do that. And I can't remember who exactly came up with the idea, but someone said to me, maybe that might fit in a trombone case, because I was carrying it in my son's my son's bat case, his little league bat and ball and glove case. So I carry that thing over my shoulder around everywhere. So we got a trombone case. We put the pieces in there, and my God, it fit in perfectly. The bell was the same exact. So now I carry my mic stand in a trombone case. Yeah,
and it's very subtle. Yeah, it's very subtle.
Yeah,
I've seen you walk through the airport with it.
Yeah, people got so. What kind of trombone you got in there? I said, it's not a trombone. Lately, when they say that, I say, yeah, just a regular trombone, man.
It's better just to go with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's like that. Also, when people go, "Oh, you must be in a rock band," I find it's better because I was traveling with some name bands, but the members have all changed. It's better to say a band like Sin City Sinners, and then they lose interest and walk away, because otherwise, I got to explain why Warren DeMartini is not on the plane with us.
Yeah, right. So well, that guy doesn't look like the same guy. Is that the guy? Who's the guy?
And then I'm saying that guy wasn't even born when the first record came out. But so it's better just to tell him it's a trombone case. So
and I do have to give a shout out to I tell you, that stand has come with me everywhere, from the beginning. It was made for me before we did the first show, the first tour, 75. And it's been with me every place, every show I've done, it's been with me. And I get it powder coated now. I used to have the guy spray paint and stuff. So now we've gotten into a little bit more, a manageable thing where it gets powder coated. So rehearsing at Danny Coker's place, I asked him about getting my mic stand powder coated a few years ago. And he said, yeah, no problem. I can have that done. So I had him powder coated, and he said, I'll have it done for you. I said, I'm getting ready to go back out. It was just, as long as it gets done, because now I had a backup, which was just a regular one that was thrown together that I just used as a backup thing. But it wasn't really a formal one that was made just like that one. But I just used it. I'd never like to take it on the road because it wasn't made right. So I'm waiting for this. I'm rehearsing. We're getting to the point where we're getting to our last rehearsal before we're ready to go out. So finally, I said, call Danny, and I called Stoney Curtis, and asked them what's going on. They said, okay, it'll be ready. Just come down a little bit earlier. Your last rehearsal is on Friday. Come a little bit earlier for the rehearsal, before your rehearsal. So I come down there, little bit earlier. So what's going on? Where's the stand? So Danny goes, come back with me. So we go back in the control room, which is in the back. And so I go out in the control room and I look and I goes, my stand. I'm looking at it. And thank you so much. And then he points and goes, look over there. There's another stand. I'm going, wait a second, what's going on? He said, this is your stand over here. This is the one I made. He made an exact replica of my stand to the point where there was a bolt on the bottom that I never used anymore, that I used to use to hold in. Mm-hmm. He put that in there as well. So I have 2 stands. He said, I want you to put your stand away so you never have to use it again, so you don't lose it.
It's so funny because before you told that story, I was going to say, Frank, it's time to put the thing in the Smithsonian. You travel with it. One day you're going to lose it. Let the original one sit at home. And so how great that he did that for you. Danny,
I was so surprised. Yeah.
He builds, he has the custom car shop out here and he has the TV shows. Yeah. And so how cool though that you have that now. So, okay.
It's such a great thing to do. I mean, I was just so blown away.
Yeah, very cool and a great surprise. Now, your wife is probably glad that I've kept you busy all these hours, but I'm sure you want to get back to your life. But we gotta get to this because we can't not mention this. This is Risen, and
yes,
this would be the latest Angel record that you could purchase right now. This is you and Punky.
Yes, it is, and I say this because it's probably the most important album that I've done because when you do an album like this, you have to live up to what you've done in the past. And if there's anyone that's going to be a big critic about this, it's going to be the hardcore Angel fans. So it's important to Punky and I for us to do an album that has to be in the same vein and be accepted as a new Angel album, which is not an easy thing to do. It's different if you're saying, okay, this is an album from Punky Meadows and Frank Dimino.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not really. This is an Angel album. Those guys are the guys that are now part of Angel and part of the Angel lore now, because the rest of the guys are not really, wanting to,
right,
come out. I mean, we've asked them to play on stuff. We asked Greg to play if he wanted to play on this album, and they're always invited to play on stuff, but we've now gotten to the point where these are the guys that are coming out with us. This is the core. This is what we feel like is now Angel. We're able to call this Angel. So the album is really an important album to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can buy this album in the description down below. You can order it and all those great things. And it's so cool to have new Angel music. And Frank, I don't know if you know this, but if you turn the logo upside down, it's the same.
Yeah, there's some people that still don't know that.
Yeah, I had a feeling you might know, but just in case, and I'm not in the Magic Union, but I don't know if you could see this here.
Very good. You're hired.
Now I'm going to go to the Magic Castle, and I'm ready to create illusions for the next tour. Frank, I'm glad that you were able to spend some time or waste some time. That's the name of the show. But people are sitting at home. I feel like if they wanted to know about Angel, we covered a lot. I mean,
we did.
Your career, Frank, is like, in the beginning, it was like Spinal Tap when they're talking about all the bands they were in first. First we were the new, and because there's just so much. And then it's great, Frank. You will casually say a name. I'm trying to race to explain just in case someone's doesn't realize Jack Douglas is this legendary producer of Aerosmith, and all these people in your life have been
starting over. John Lennon starting over. I mean, that's the his stories. Jack used to sit and talk with Jack about that album with John Lennon, and it's just like I met John Lennon when we did the third album back with Eddie Kramer. I mean, it was like the most crazy thing that ever happened. I mean, just casually, and he was so casual talking to me, like as if I was just a guy out there that was just a guy at the studio, and for me, I'm talking with him like he's just a guy in the studio, but in my head, I'm saying this is John Lennon. It's like so.
This is this is not a normal life, Frank. This doesn't happen to everybody. So it's good. I'm glad that you're still doing it. And sound as great as ever. Frank, that's one of the great things. It's hard to find somebody who can still do it as well, if not stronger, and that's you. So
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I encourage everybody to check out Angel. And before you go, let us know, is there another Angel record in the works?
Yes, we just signed another deal with Cleopatra, and the album will be. Well, right now we're in the process of writing. So after this, I'm on a phone with. I don't know what time it is. I hope I didn't go over. No. But I'm hooking up with Punky later tonight and tomorrow. So we're writing back and forth. It's a different kind of reality now. You
know? You guys do this? Do you do like a video chat?
Yeah, Zoom chat, or we talk on the phone. Whatever.
Does he dress up for it?
Not usually.
Gotcha.
Although on the phone, I don't know. He could be dressed up. I could be dressed up. Who knows? I don't know.
True. I want to believe. I want to believe you guys are always dressed up.
Yeah, right. Me too.
But so this is the new writing process, and it seems like things are starting to get better here. And hopefully you guys will be able to go and record that record. The plan is to do it this year, right?
Yes. We got the same engineer mixing, Stevie D, who's going to do it. He did the Risen album, and we're going to do it back in New Jersey again. And we got all the same people together. So it's always great to have the same components back together. When things work out well, it's you try so hard to keep the same things together, so that
it's not easy.
It's not easy. It's not easy at all. But thank goodness that we've been able to do that. We've kept the band together. So I feel really good about doing another album.
Is there an Angel website, Frank, or any of that?
Yes, there is. Angel Band Official, I believe it's called .com, and it's also on Facebook, Angel Official Band. And you can check out. You can get the Punky solo album and my solo album, Oh Hobbits Die Hard, and the Risen album, and there's other merchandise on there too. There's going to be more stuff on there as well.
Great.
So.
Yeah, I kind of used to call Angel the greatest band that you never saw.
Right.
But now is a chance for people to see a good part of it. And, you guys are doing your best to put Angel out. I mean, listen, you're not coming out in boxes with talking characters. Right. That's better for the folklore anyway. But you are hearing the music and you're seeing the guys. And so I hope everybody goes and does that. Yeah. So thank you, Frank. I'll let you get back to some real work. And I hope they will be seeing each other soon.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for everything, Jason. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, everyone, to watch. And I hope we'll see you again very soon.